It is the 24th of August, 1993. You are in Bangkok. Outside, 40,000 people are waiting for you. And inside, in the dressing room, the news you have been dreading for weeks has just arrived. The world already knows. You can't process it yet. Your team is silent. No one will meet your eyes. The television screens flash your face over and over. And beneath your face are words you never thought could exist in the same sentence as your name. You are 34 years old. You are the most famous artist who has ever lived on this earth. And right now, while the National Stadium of Bangkok shakes with the name your fans gave you, the entire world is deciding something terrible. They are deciding whether you are a monster. You are going out anyway. You make that decision right there. Not because you aren't afraid, but because the stage is the only place where the world still has to be quiet and listen to you. And tonight you are going to put fear to a different use. You are going to turn it into something 40,000 people will feel in their chests without knowing exactly why. You walk out onto the stage, and when jam kicks in, something breaks inside you in a way that only you can feel. All the rage, all the humiliation, everything you cannot say to anyone because anything you say will be twisted and used against you, all of it comes out through the body, not through the voice, through the body. Because you always knew the body doesn't lie. But let's go back, because to understand what happens tonight in Bangkok, you need to know who Evan Chandler is. Evan Chandler is a dentist. He also writes film scripts, or at least that's what he says. He is the father of a 13-year-old boy named Jordan, whom you have known for over a year. Jordan is your friend, or that's what you believed. The relationship had started simply. Jordan was your fan. His stepfather had a car rental business, and someone connected the dots. Jordan's mother grew close to you. Jordan started visiting you at Neverland. All of that is real and documented. What is also real and documented is what Evan Chandler said in a phone conversation that someone had the intelligence to record. He said that if he didn't get what he wanted, your career would be over, that you wouldn't sell another record, that you would be humiliated beyond any nightmare. And when asked how all of this would affect his own son, he answered that it was irrelevant. Irrelevant. His own son was irrelevant to his plan, but you will find that out later. Right now, what you know is that in August 1993, Evan Chandler came to meet with your team and put a number on the table, $20 million. In exchange for silence, you refused. You offered far less. He rejected that too. And at some point in that negotiation, Evan Chandler made a decision that would change your life forever. What no one knows yet, what will take years to come to light, is what happened on August 2nd of that year. Evan Chandler, who is a dentist and therefore has access to sedatives, extracted one of his own son's teeth. While Jordan was under the effects of the drug, he asked him a question. Jordan said, yes. And with that, Evan Chandler had what he needed. On August 18th, the Los Angeles police open a criminal investigation against you. On August 21st, someone leaks the news and the media begins to spin. On August 24th, while you are in Bangkok trying not to fall apart in public, the entire world receives the version Evan Chandler built. And that version has no nuance. The days that follow are a kind of hell that doesn't have a name yet. You keep doing the tour. That is the incredible part, what the fans who followed you during that period remember with a mix of admiration and pain. You keep doing the tour, city after city, stage after stage. On August 29th, you turn 35 singing in front of 47,000 people in Singapore. Elizabeth Taylor flies in from Los Angeles just to be with you that day. She sings you happy birthday, and you smile for the cameras with a smile that costs more than anyone can imagine. But what the cameras don't show happens after the show. Your doctor tries to give you a Demerol injection for the pain. When he finds the spot in the muscle, the needle almost bends. Your glutes are so scarred, so full of abscesses from previous injections, that the tissue no longer accepts more. They end up putting in an IV line. You are 35 years old and your body looks like that of someone who has been at war for decades. Because you have been at war for decades. Only before, the war was with yourself, with the impossible demands of perfection, with the pressure to always be more. Now the war is with something you cannot control, public opinion. And that is the only war you don't know how to fight. You stop eating. It's not a decision. The hunger simply disappears. Those close to you describe someone who loses focus constantly, who speaks with a dragging voice, who at some moments seems not entirely present. The stress is eating your body from the inside, and you are covering it with pills because pills are the only thing that quiets the noise. In September, you arrive in Moscow, and in Moscow, something happens that no fan of yours can hear without feeling it in their chest. Alone, in a hotel room, far from everything and everyone, you begin to write a song. Not for the album, not as a strategy. Because something inside you needs to say out loud what you cannot say to any journalist, any judge, any lawyer. The song is called Stranger in Moscow, and it has a line that works like an X-ray of that September. Abandoned in your fame, Armageddon of the brain, how it feels when you're alone and cold inside. That song is not a product, it is a document. And while you write that song in Moscow, another machine is moving in Los Angeles. In September, the Chandler family files the formal civil lawsuit. The accusations are so severe that the name you have spent your whole life building begins to crumble in real time. Pepsi, which had been your sponsor for years, pulls back. Contracts start falling apart one by one. You don't just stop making money, you start losing money at a speed that is dizzying. And then something happens that you didn't expect from that side. In December 1993, your own sister Latoya holds a press conference in Tel Aviv. She says she cannot be a silent accomplice to what you did, that she knows things, that the checks exist. The world listens to her. So do you. And what you feel in that moment is not rage. It is something older and harder to name. Years later, the truth will come out, that her husband at the time forced her to read that statement, that she was crying while she did it, that it wasn't her voice, but the voice of someone who controlled her. But in December 1993, from the other side of the world, all you can see is your sister's face, saying you are guilty. There are betrayals the body never forgets, even when the mind understands them later. In the middle of all that, there is someone you call almost every night. Lisa Marie Presley has been in your life for over a year. You reconnected through a mutual friend, and since then you have spoken almost every day. She is Elvis's daughter, so she knows what it is to grow up inside a myth, what it is to live with the idea that fame belongs to you, but you don't belong to yourself. She doesn't judge you. She listens. She believes you. In the worst moments of that autumn, when you are disoriented, incoherent, on the edge, she is the only voice on the other end of the phone without an agenda. At the end of 1993, during one of those calls, you ask her a question. You ask if she would marry you. She says yes. On the 11th of November, 1993, you cancel the rest of the tour. You announce it as health problems. That is true, but it is only part of the truth. What you don't say is that your body can't take any more, that you have been running for months on a combination of willpower and chemistry, and that at some point both ran out at the same time. You check into rehab. What comes next is what fans who followed this case closely know as one of the most humiliating moments in modern entertainment history. On the 20th of December, 1993, the police hand you an order. They need to photograph your body. They need to verify the description Jordan Chandler gave of your anatomy. You have the right to refuse, but refusing would be interpreted as proof of guilt, so you don't refuse. In a room with police and legal presence from both sides, you step up onto a platform. You undress. You stand there while photographers you did not choose document every inch of your body. The process lasts 25 minutes. You are not touched at any point, but something in you changes in those 25 minutes that will never be the same again. What investigators find after that is something the media will not cover with the same urgency with which they covered the accusations.
Wow.
The photos do not match Jordan's description. Jordan had claimed you were circumcised. The photos prove otherwise. That detail will remain technically in dispute for years, until 2009, until the autopsy, where it is confirmed, definitively and irrefutably, that Jordan Chandler lied about that detail. But in January 1994, you don't know that yet. What you do know in January 1994 is that your lawyers present you with a cold calculation. The civil process could last 6 months. During those 6 months, the media coverage will be daily and devastating. And in the meantime, Broken contracts, lost opportunities, accumulated damage that doesn't stop. The civil settlement payment, by comparison, is less than what you lose every week this continues. Besides, if you close the civil case, the criminal process is free to move forward. And in the criminal case, your lawyers are convinced you will win. Because there is no evidence. Because the photos don't match. Because there is nothing. You sign the settlement, $23 million, and not a single line of that document contains an admission of guilt. But the world doesn't read that carefully. The world reads the number, and the number becomes the proof that never existed in any courtroom. What you will later come to regret, what your own lawyer Thomas Mesereau will confirm years later, is that payment was the most costly strategic mistake of your life. Not because it was an admission of guilt, but because in the court of public opinion, the difference between paying and confessing is too small to matter. The criminal investigation concludes without charges. There is no sufficient evidence. Jordan Chandler refuses to testify in the criminal process. The case is closed. You are cleared of all charges, but you are not free. Because the story Evan Chandler built already has a life of its own. It already circulates through every media outlet in the world. It already lives in the minds of millions of people who will never go looking for the investigation's conclusion, who will never read the details of the strip search, who will never know the photos didn't match. And years later, when Jordan is already an adult and has distanced himself from his father, when he has obtained a restraining order against the man who used him as a weapon and threatened to kill him, when he finally reveals that he lied under pressure, it will already be too late for that confession to reach the same places the accusations reached. Evan Chandler, the man who said his own son was irrelevant to his plan, dies of a gunshot wound to the head in November 2009, months after you die. The man who promised to destroy you ends up destroying himself, alone, without anyone missing him too much. But you don't know that yet. Right now, you are trying to rebuild something. The History album you release in 1995 has songs that are essentially your court file set to music. Scream is the rage, Stranger in Moscow is the pain. And there is a song that, in its original recording, used the name of a specific prosecutor, Tom Sneddon, the same man who pursued you with an obsession that some who knew him described as personal. They had to change the name for legal reasons. But in the recording, in the studio, you say the real name. Because some things don't get forgotten even when you're forced to rename them. If you have been following this story for a long time, if you grew up with this music, if you ever asked yourself how it was possible that the man who created Thriller and donated millions to sick children could at the same time be what the tabloid said he was, this video was made for you. Because the short answer is that it wasn't possible, and the long answer is everything you just lived. You who love children, you who founded the Heal the World Foundation for them, you who donated the proceeds of an entire world tour to charity, you who spent hours with sick children in hospitals, not because there were cameras, but because you needed it as much as they did. That specific accusation, directed at you specifically, was the most costly one possible. The only one with no easy defense, because the only real proof you had was who you were, and who you were had already been decided by the world without asking you. This was only the first round. In 2003, a journalist named Martin Bashir will spend 8 months in your home pretending to be your friend. What that camera captures will set off a second round that will go to a real trial, with a jury, with a verdict. And after that, when you are no longer here to defend yourself, voices will come forward, saying things you will no longer be able to refute. But that is the next part of this story. For now, it is 1993. You are the most famous man in the world. You have just been accused of the worst. They did not declare you guilty. They did not declare you innocent. They left you in that space of permanent suspicion that is worse than any verdict, because it has no possible appeal. And still, that night in Bangkok, you walked out onto the stage. That is what doesn't get forgotten. Not the record, not the trial. That image of a man who turned the greatest pain of his life into 2 hours of something that 40,000 people experienced as magic, without knowing what was on the other side of that smile. Because you always knew the body doesn't lie, but you also knew how to make it say exactly what you needed it to say. That too is a kind of genius, the loneliest kind of all. But there is something in your gut, something in the fear pressing against your chest that tells you very clearly, this is only the beginning.